Our speakers today are all former ALEC state legislators, now continuing their call of service and duty in a local capacity. Please join me in welcoming County Commissioner Andre Cushing, who is going to come to the stage and introduce the rest of the panel. Andre?
Good afternoon. I understand we're standing between you and dessert. I am delighted to be here. I am a county commissioner in central Maine. Prior to that, I did 10 years in the Maine legislature, and I also served on the local level as a town councilor. It gave me an understanding of the value of an organization like ALEC and ACE. And for those of you who are not aware of ACE, the American City County Exchange offers the benefit to local and county officials, be they councilors, township personnel, county commissioners or supervisors, or school board members, the opportunity to engage with the policies and principles that we in ALEC have found to be so valuable in the decision-making process. I'm very delighted to have with me a couple of friends. We've both served on the ALEC board together, or all of us have served on the ALEC board. We've, I believe, all served in leadership too, in the legislature. So it's kind of like the Blues Brothers movie. We're getting the band back together here. And what we want to do, our mission in this case, is to share with you how you can bring your local elected county officials to an event like this where they can interact. And I'll give you just one quick story before I sit down. I had a brand new appropriations chair when I was in the legislature. We have term limits, and our past chair had termed out. This guy had never even served on appropriations. And our Republican governor submitted his budget, which included an expansion of sales tax and a reduction in the income tax. This guy was getting hit from the Democrats saying, oh, this didn't work in Kansas. He was getting hit by Republican colleagues who had run against expanding the sales tax when they came to the legislature, and he didn't know what to do. So I said, I know a guy from Kansas. His name's Ray Merrick, and I think he was the speaker. Maybe I could call him up and he could talk to you. So I called Ray, and I said, hey, it's Andre. I got a guy that needs some advice on what you did right in Kansas and what you wish you'd done differently. He said, I'll put you in touch with Dick Carlson. He did that budget. We spent 45 minutes on the phone with Dick in my office. That would not have happened if I hadn't had breakfast with Ray Merrick at an academy earlier. So the power of this organization is the ability to say, hey, I have contacts through the relationships I've built here, and I've created a network of people I can count on to help me when we need some best practices. And with that, I want to talk with our colleagues here. I'm delighted to have joining us the Honorable Lori Sain, now a Weld County Commissioner, formerly a representative in the Colorado House, and the Honorable John Allen, the Treasurer of the second largest county in the United States, Maricopa County, and a former representative and majority leader. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Andre.
So, Lori, tell me a little bit about what the value is. You're like myself in a term limit state. Mm-hmm. You were kind of coming to the sunset of your career with ALEC, and we're probably feeling a little depressed. You were going to miss all your friends and the great things we do. What did you find ACE offered you as a now county official?
Well, one of the things we're facing in Colorado, which I found that we're kind of the experiment for the rest of the nation in some of these local preemption, these local control issues that used to be all about freedom. But now it seems that it's only going one way, and that is more control. So I'm finding that our local elected officials could be our very first line of defense. So we are having attacks on agriculture, animal husbandry, oil and gas, plastic bags, the Second Amendment. And honestly, I'm seeing a very sophisticated level of lobbying that I didn't see unless it was at the state capitol, but that's now coming to the local elected officials. So what I find ACE offers is a deep bench of leadership and policy and support, so we can help our local electeds push back against these terrible policies that really are hurting the poor in our community. They're not hurting the rich, they're hurting the middle class, they're hurting the poor. And as we've heard, we need to be servants more so than ever before. It's so important to fight back, and ACE provides that platform to help your local elected officials do so.
Yeah. So Joan Allen, I think you and Lori and I all agree that it's an interesting transition to come from the legislative level where there's kind of a command and control structure, and now we're in a different environment. In your case, you're not making policy as you did as a legislative leader, but you're implementing somebody else's policy. Tell us a little bit about your job and some of the roles that you see ACE being extremely helpful to you as a county treasurer.
Well, I was inspired by Art Laffer yesterday to look at this, so I wrote on a napkin how this works. So basically, as time goes by since I've been the majority leader in the House, fewer and fewer people laugh at my jokes. I'm going to mail that to the Vice President. But the legislature in state politics eats up a lot of the attention and energy in politics. But the principles in which ALEC instills in us as conservatives, the ability to do legislation that shows our fundamental principles of smaller government and federalism, through ACE, we have an opportunity to push those values further down in the system. I could be, as the treasurer, the key bureaucrat of collecting taxes. But because I'm a fiscal conservative and have been honed in the ALEC way of thinking, I view myself as servant leadership, that my job is not just to get the taxes, but to do it in a manner in which demonstrates the fact that that paying of taxes is the fundamental underpinnings of all the things we want to do, and I should be thankful for you for doing it. ACE is going to give us the ability to use our knowledge as an organization to use as an incubator for those who want to move further up in the political system at times, and a way of sharing experiences for people like myself who have gone from the state job down to the county job in a way that the synergies haven't been able to be explored before. So I look forward to us being more aggressive at ACE, recruiting people. All of you know somebody who used to be in state government and now is in county, city, school board. We ask you to help us recruit them and get them here so we can make better servant leadership at every level.
When Lisa Nelson and I talked as my tenure in the legislature was ending, I wasn't sure how I would be able to stay engaged with a group that I'd come to love like this. Then my county commissioner passed away, and I got asked to fill out that role, and she said, good, you can be on this ACE board. And I'd kind of heard about it, but I didn't really understand all of the value to this. She asked me to take on the role of director when things changed a year ago, and I was delighted to do that because I saw from my time looking at this the incredible potential that this offered both to local and county people and to elected leaders in the legislature. And I say that because there is no other organization in the country that brings together elected leaders at all three levels. So if you're a private sector individual out there and you're dealing with some of the issues that may require municipal ordinance change, county level change, and state level change, you're going to have to go to 3, 4, 5 organizations to get to see all the players and explain the same thing that you have explained at each of those events to them as to why they need to do it. If you could come to ALEC and see all three levels, all three platforms of government meeting together, having the opportunity as we did at ALEC to build those relationships and be in a unique situation where you are an equal player, participant in the crafting of our model ordinances and policies, it's a powerful tool to make sure that private enterprise has a seat at the table and a voice in making decisions. I don't know, for some of my colleagues out here who are legislators, if you've ever sometimes regretted voting for a piece of legislation after you found out what it was going to do. This is the opportunity that other groups, and this is not to disparage other groups, they have a role, but when we're making policy, we try to, at times, adopt the Hippocratic oath of doing no harm. So Lori, as a former legislator and leader, what do you see that local and you as a county officer can have that you might have had in your staff support at the legislative level that you don't now have at the county level?
Well, at the county level, I'll have to say that ACE can really provide that policy that's pro-freedom, that's limited government, that's focused on federalism, and that can really help change the environment not only for your local government and your local community, but at the state level. So one of the things that we can provide as former legislators too is that leadership at the local level. And for example, I advocated for a bill that passed that saves us money for maintaining county roads. And so having that experience at both levels is something that we can transmit on and transfer on to other local elected officials, not only in our state, in our community, but across the nation. And that's the power of exchange, which of course is in the name of ALEC and an ACE.
Great. John, as a former legislator and now somebody who is awakened to the difficulties that legislative action sometimes causes in implementing your role, tell me what you see as a takeaway that people should encourage their folks at the local and county level to look to in ACE.
Well, in the 12 years I was in the legislature, I don't think we ever worked on a truly new idea. We were always adjusting. What we have when we have the locals trying to implement some very good policies, but sometimes it's the round peg in the square hole, something that worked very well in committee and in front of a few stakeholders. When it gets down to the point where I have to collect that or I have to enforce that, I think that if we have a more peer dialogue in places like this, where we can say, do you understand what we have to do to collect that? We actually just break even. And it's the right thing to do, but you have to do it differently than you're doing it. And to have those dialogues at this level where you say, yes, we are not every bill affects downstream government, but when it does, the effects of it can more quickly have a trusted voice to say how it's working, and vice versa.
And would you agree it's always better to fix the bill before you pass it than to have to come back and do it later?
All my bills were perfect all the time. So no one's ever had to adjust those. But the rest of you might want to make sure you talk to us. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you both. This has been great. And for those of you who are out there that are legislators, or if you're private sector folks, we thank you for what you have done in some of the states we visited. We look forward to the opportunity to come and meet with some of your people when those come up. And don't be selfish. If you love you love ALEC, then share with your local and county folks the opportunity to be part of America's preeminent organization serving the needs of elected officials throughout their public service career. Thank you all for your time. Enjoy the day.
Thank you.